But let's talk about the two types of quitters for a second. There are folks who literally can't quit the things they know are bad for them. I'm thinking of some of the vices that kind of hold us back from success, and they're on our list every year. Maybe it's a New Year's resolution. These are the things we know we should quit. They're on our list, and we can't seem to knock them out. I'm telling you, success isn't going to let you climb the ladder. Success will prevent you from climbing those rungs of the ladder until you knock these things out. We're talking about addictions, talking about vices. Perhaps it's gambling. Maybe it's sports gambling. It could be as simple as your fantasy football is overwhelming you to the point you can't concentrate on what it takes to be successful. That's probably not the biggest problem you've got, but you know the list. Perhaps it's drinking, alcoholism, maybe it's smoking cigarettes. These are all things that I think can prevent you. You know, the way I look at it is if there's anything I'm doing that could prevent me from being successful, I'd like to eliminate it. I'd like to quit doing it. I'd like to knock out the things I know I can control and get on to the things that may be less controllable. Let the universe, my mind, my resource group, my friends, if I need help to marshal resources to actually be successful, let's spend my energy there, not on the things I know I should already be doing. Now let's talk about the other type of quitting. This is quitting the things literally that are positive that are happening to you. I did a little research on AI before today's show. And one of the things I looked up was how many businesses are formed every year in the United States. Last year, something like 5.5 million new businesses were formed. And I thought, well, that's a sign of hope. That's a sign of desire to succeed. People who form a business in a calendar year want to win. They want to succeed. They've got an idea. They've got that spark. And so that's really positive. And then I looked at how many bankruptcies. Now think about bankruptcy for a minute. It's the ultimate quit. It's the ultimate quitting. I looked at corporate bankruptcies, which wasn't many. It was like 23,000. And then I looked at personal bankruptcies, where you quit on everybody who perhaps loaned you money. You quit on everybody who believed in your idea, believed perhaps in your life, believed in the things you hoped and sold them on that they should give you money and resources to pursue. You're quitting outwardly, overtly on them. 517,000 people last year quit by filing official bankruptcy filings in federal court. That's a large number of people. It's a large number of people quitting when things got tough. Now, obviously, there are things that require us to maybe quit. Maybe you're in a job and you know you've got to be an entrepreneur and you know you've got to be your own boss. Well, you should quit that. You should quit working for that boss at some point, figure out a pathway, figure out a game plan, and quit. That's the right kind of quitting. I think if you're in a cult, you should probably quit. I think you should get your way out of there. I think you should get some help and get out of there. I think if you're involved in drinking every night on your way home, you can't go home unless you stop by the bar. I think you should quit that, okay? This is the type of quitting you should be quitting. Now let's talk about gym memberships. Can we all agree these are good for you? Can we all agree that joining a gym is a great idea? Can we also agree that going in the gym is also a great idea? Guess what the number of people who have a gym membership in America is that don't go in to the gym anymore? The total percentage of people, they have a membership. They filled out the paperwork. They filled out the debit card. They gave them access to their bank account, and they do not go to the gym anymore. 85%. 85, look it up on AI. 85% of folks who have a gym membership do not go. 15% do. Now think about these percentages for a minute. These are the folks who probably succeed in other aspects of their life. Think about church. I just looked up Christians. You could have looked up Muslims. You could have looked up Catholics. You could have looked up Mormons. You could have looked up anything. I just looked up how many Christians go to church every week. Devout Christians who go to church every week. It's 5%. It's 5%. That means 95% don't. Now, listen, I'm not judging. I'm just saying that quitting seems to be a pattern amongst people who want to succeed, which I'm assuming is the entire audience. I'm assuming everybody watching this has the spark of desire to succeed. So let's talk about what happens when we quit. Now, quitting seems like, well, I could start over somewhere else. I could quit here and I could begin again. Well, that's true. But let's talk about what the brain does when we quit. This is fascinating. See, you know how habits form, right? It takes about 19 days for most people to form a habit. Now, you could destroy that 19-day window through drug use or some type of other things you could do to alter the way your brain chemistry works. But if you're a normal person who's not damaged yourself or in some way harmed yourself through illicit drugs or something that's literally messed up the wiring in your brain, it's about 19 days to form a habit. You can experiment with this by making your bed every day for 19 days. On the 20th day, try walking out of your room without making your bed. Just try getting out of the room. Your brain will say, hey, we got more to do. Turn around. Look, we've got stuff unfinished here. Try the same with your teeth brushing. You probably don't need a new 19 days. That's probably already a habit. I sure hope so. I think if you tried to leave your house today without brushing your teeth, you'd probably walk back in. Your brain would remind you, hey, we've got a habit here. Our brain has built an efficient habit loop to remind us of the things that we know are habits and important to us. Let's talk about the energy the brain deploys to build that habit loop. Now, I may pronounce some of these words wrong because I'm not a scientist. If you want to watch the science show, go to Andrew Huberman, who's got a great podcast on this stuff. But I will tell you what I've researched, and I'm pleased to know how this relates to quitting. And you should be fascinated by this. Here's how the brain actually works. When you actually begin something new or novel, the brain tries to connect the neurons necessary to make it an efficient task. If it's new or novel, it's not efficient. The brain says, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? This is clumsy. I don't like doing this. And the brain will try to talk you out of doing it. The brain will try to convince you that we're wasting time and precious energy here. And so the brain will say, let's stop doing this. And most of you, after a few days, will just go along with what the brain has suggested, which is let's reserve energy, let's reserve resources, and let's stop doing the hard thing. Now, some of you plow through because you just won't quit things. You're actually one of these determined individuals that just won't quit. You're going to push through the hard time. Well, the brain then begins to believe you're serious. It begins to be convinced that it's along for the ride and that your essence, your identity is in charge of this journey, and the brain will quit trying to get you to stop. And the brain will begin to do something very fascinating, and this is a physical phenomenon in the brain that is occurring in people who will persist, people who will not stop, people who refuse to quit. There's a fatty tissue called myelin that gets laid in the brain between brain neurons, and it gets laid inch by inch or centimeter by centimeter as you continue to persist in this novel activity. Maybe it's making hard phone calls. Maybe it's walking into a room and talking to strangers. Maybe it's knocking doors. Maybe it's making the difficult calls you've got to make at your new sales career. Maybe it's public speaking. Whatever it is that's hard, that's also new, the brain will begin to work with you and lay down that tissue. Now, here's what's happening. That's an insulative layer, insulation between neurons that makes them fire faster, makes them fire more efficiently. It's literally a chemical creation that turns into a physical creation in the brain, rewarding your persistence. You ever wonder why people seem to make things seem so easy, like a professional athlete can conduct this activity that if you tried it, you'd fall on your face? But for some reason, that golf swing looks perfect. It looks so smooth. It looks effortless. Well, these folks have laid down myelin in the brain. They've laid it down over time, hitting balls through repetitions, through repeating the activity, not quitting. They continue, so the brain rewards them. Here's why the brain rewards them. The brain isn't making an objective judgment about what you're up to. The brain is simply preserving resources. It's conserving energy. It's saying, if you're going to do this and you're going to continue down this road, I'm going to make it easier because I've got to conserve resources to keep us alive and to keep us on this path to success you want to be on. I've got to preserve resources. And so it'll begin to build these habit loops. It'll begin to build that myelin between the two neurons that are required to conduct that task over and over again. And you'll find that pretty soon, if you won't quit, you're a master of that that domain. You're a master. You like it. You find joy in it. Dopamine begins to be released in the brain, and you find great excitement in doing what others consider to be difficult because you're good at it.